It's the onions. Hey, this is John TVZ. I assume probably platinum, something like that. Dun, 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 dun. So this is going to be a one racks command center. I am opposed to one racks command center in general. I feel like if you're gonna make a command center early, you might as well CC first because he can't punish it. And if you're gonna not CC first, then you might as well make more than one rack so that you can punish him. With one rack's command center, you can only do fake bunker pressure to pressure him, and fake bunker pressure is only scary if real bunker pressure is common on the ladder at that time. So I don't know how common real bunker pressure is on the ladder. It's probably very uncommon because of the 3cc prevalence as a build. So he's kind of roach rushing you-ish, and when he arrives, you see him, and this is 7 roaches at 7 minutes, which is light roach pressure. A roach all in should be 7 roaches at 6 minutes, or 550 or something like that. So for these to be this late means he's getting a hatchery and some drones behind it, but not a lot of drones. So as you can see, he's got very little income, but more than the 15 drones that you'd normally be expecting. So he basically doesn't have an economy behind this. So all you need to do is not be dead at the end of it. Marines with no stim, no shields, and no attack upgrade trade very, very poorly with roaches. So one roach costs the same as 2 Marines, but 1 roach will easily beat 2 Marines, and 10 Marines against 5 roaches, the roaches will win, and so on and so forth. Also, because roaches are such high hit point regenerating units, focus fire is extremely important in Marine versus roach play. Once you get either stim or combat shields or +1 attack, suddenly Marines trade really well with roaches as long as you focus fire. So you can always get an idea of whether you're going to win or lose a fight just by immediately counting how many roaches. So get used to estimating how many guys you have by looking down here. 8. Each tab is 8, so 8 + 1 is 9 kind of thing. And just counting his dudes. He's got 5. 5 versus 9. You should probably win because you're going to have 4 more Marines added to this fight, and he's not reinforcing as quickly. Also, roaches before speed walk really slowly across the field, so there's that. Generally, this is going pretty well. As long as you continue to produce Marines 4 at a time, and he continues to produce roaches off of his measly little 800 income, he should theoretically eventually overwhelm you if you never add production, or build any bunkers, or finish your wall in, or get any upgrades. So that means that your primary responsibility here is to do one of those things. Either finish your wall in, start an upgrade, or add production capacity, right? So as you can see, as time goes on, his army is getting larger and larger compared to your army because he's spending all of his money on army, and he's getting more, he's getting less money than you, but all of his money is going into army, while a lot of your money can't go into armory, I don't know why I keep saying armory. Just because you only have 4 racks with no add-ons. There's nothing else you can do to add production in less than a full minute, which is how long it would take to get a reactor core, or another racks, or a factory. So instead, when we need to add production and we need to add it fast, we add bunkers, and that's what you're going to do. Add bunkers. So actually, if this guy hadn't accidentally left half of his roaches in his main, he should have overwhelmed you by now. This actually should have been a loss, because he didn't have any bunkers when he arrived, and you didn't build bunkers immediately after he arrived. And when you did build bunkers, you built them in kind of weird spots. So, yeah. But luckily for you, he left about half his army at home, so you were able to really easily defend this. Finally, he realizes that he left all those units behind, so now he's going to send them up to the front. And when they arrive, he's going to make a concerted effort to get in there and kick some butt. You can see how this bunker is completely useless. Silly placement for a bunker. But you can also see how your Wallen is really, really helping a lot. He basically is forced to move command through this choke, which means that most of his units are dead before he even gets in and fires a shot. So that was really good. Good job. Wallens are what it's all about, baby. So now you're way ahead on damage done and way ahead on income. and just kind of winning in general. You finished 1-1. I would caution you against going for 1-1 in situations like this, because attack upgrades are awesome against roaches, but armor upgrades are completely useless against roaches. Even like suddenly having +3 armor wouldn't help at all against roaches or banelings, and unless he starts making lings, armor upgrades are silly. So you'd already made the second armory. I guess getting the second attack upgrade was the only way you were going to spend that gas, so it was the right move in that regard. But I would have gone for a factory as soon as the roach pressure started. Go for some siege tanks, spend your gas there instead of on upgrades, because upgrades aren't going to help. Also, when you walled in, before you even knew he was doing roach pressure, the wall-in you want to use on every single map is racks, bunker, racks. So that if he ever does do roaches, you can just bring some SCVs to the front and repair the bunker, and it'll keep the roaches away and make them all scared. So you tried to put depots in your wall. Classic mistake. Classic. People don't like to do solid wall-ins, but when you think about it, lifting a naked no add-on racks for about 25 seconds costs you 1 marine worth of production. Not even like, it doesn't cost you money, it just costs you a tiny bit of production time. So that's practically free. So it's always better to be lifting and putting down a racks than it is to be lowering and raising depots, because depots have 400 hit points and a racks has 1,000, man. Also, when you wall in with depots, people almost always leave the depot down, because otherwise it would just be a pain in the butt. So there's that. Using depots and walls. Very silly. That was obviously very silly. He's been obviously massing army non-stop, and then you don't kill his army. You just kind of force it to run away, and then you walk across the field. Oh, this is exactly what he wants you to do. But by now it's just so economically ridiculous. Like, it's 51 workers to 20. That there's nothing you can really do to get back into this. So generally what you want to do against roach pressure is immediately throw down bunkers, and then if you're mining gas that you haven't spent, start finding an outlet for that gas. Sometimes if you have the production to cut workers and get more army, do that. If you don't, which you almost never will, because that would just mean that you were doing a weird build that has too many racks in the first place, then you're going to want to add racks, that kind of stuff. Anyway, you handled this pretty well. And you won. Yay! Victory! Simon likes to make farting noises. It's his strategy for winning at life. Another TVZ. One racks. Scouting with an SCV. You see gas, and so now you know he's gonna attack you, right? Command center on the low ground. 2 more racks on the high ground. 3rd racks on the, so 4th racks on the high ground. No walling on the low ground. Because you saw gas, you gotta expect the attack to come around 7 minutes. That's when it usually comes. So your wall-in has to be done by 7 minutes. Your wall-in is not done. You're getting a thin wall-in too. It's nice to try to get a wall-in that takes at least 10 banelings to get through. That means a solid wall-in of racks and engineering bays and, you know, factories and starports, like big heavy things like that. And then part of the wall-in has to be depots, but wherever it's either depots or bunkers, you make it a double wall-in. So you can check out some of the videos from the other dude I'm coaching, Roy, and look at the wall-in I'm recommending. But yeah, basically it's just 3 solid buildings and then a bunker, and then another bunker behind the first bunker, and then close off with depots, and then you have a double wall-in. Double wall-in for the win. So this guy did a pretty stupid build, where he went for really early Ling-Baneling pressure, but he tried to do it without really committing. So you can see he's still making drones and still making drones all the way up until it's just slightly before the push. And then he larva blocks right there, so he's run out of larva. So this ends up being an 9-minute 2150. This is not a very big army. At 9 minutes 27:50 is the Terran benchmark, which means that 3,500 is the Zerg and Protoss benchmark, because Zerg and Protoss can all in a little bit better than Terran. So he should have about $1,250 more in army than he has. So he gets through your Wallen, but kind of blows Banelings on multiple things he doesn't need to, and runs out of army, and you just kind of kill him by virtue of the fact that he spent about the same amount of money on army as you did, and your army was pretty well spread out, and you had a Wallen that he had to bust through, and you had guys inside of bunkers. So at this point, you're pretty far ahead in theory. It's 10 minutes, you got 44 workers and 2 mules, which is the equivalent of 52 workers, and he's got 49, which is the equivalent of 49. But more importantly, he doesn't have them spread out properly. So if you look at this oversaturated main, oversaturated net, no, even well saturated natural, but nothing at his third. So this is good. Your stim and shields should be done by 10 minutes, and obviously you haven't even started either of those. Your 2-2 should be done by like 14 minutes if that's the build you're doing. I don't know if that is the build you're doing or not. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to assume that you're doing what you want to do, because I don't know what you were planning to do. Not dropping mules, big deal. This is about 2,000 bucks worth of undropped mules. It's a really big deal. 2,000 bucks, man. At a time when your entire army size is 1,800, you have literally more money in undropped mules than you do in army. And then you kind of just walk some Marines across the field and they all die for no reason. That was very silly. Don't do that. And now you're doing it again, just kind of walking some Marines across the field. You're doing the same thing that I've been harping on Roy about. You took Marines that were in your base and you told them to attack all the way to his third. So they go all the way from your main to his third in this weird Congo line. It works-ish, but no, not really. You didn't quite kill either of the hatcheries. But you are even on damage done. The thing is, when you attack from here all the way to his third, there's so much room in that attack move command or whatever for something to go terribly wrong. What you really want to do is move your guys in small bursts. You want to move them from here down to here and then focus on your macro. Make sure you build buildings and stuff, and then move them from here to here and then focus on your macro, and move them from here to here and focus on your macro. You never want your guys to be going more than one screen away from where they already are. And the reason for that is that it allows you to keep a formation. You can spread your guys out or clump your guys up depending on what you're facing. In TVP and TVT you want to clump your guys up, and in TVZ you want to spread your guys out. So in this game specifically, it would have allowed you to not get destroyed by Banelings so easily. But also I just feel like both you and your opponent are piling up money, just massively piling up money. Good thing you got the cancel in time on there, that was nice. You did take your third within a reasonable amount of time, that was very good. It looks like your natural is quite undersaturated and your main is quite oversaturated because you've lost some patches up here. You've got a lot of idle workers. 5 idle workers. And you're working on 3-3. Your upgrades have been pretty good, although you got stim and shields quite late. You have enough racks, which is good, but you're not like using them. You're not making Marines in the racks that you have. You only got 3 gas geysers, which is good if you're going for mass Marine strategy. It's good not to get too much gas. You have the production capacity to make 2 medevacs at a time, but you're only making 1. Again, a lot of your buildings are idle, and you have a bunch of money in the bank, so there's no reason for them to be idle. So I think what's happening, this is similar to the mule problem that we're seeing. Is you're saying, okay, I need to drop mules, so you're dropping 2 or 3 mules when you have 5 mules worth of energy. So if you drop 3 mules when you have 5 mules worth of energy, then it's just silly. You need to overdo rather than underdo things. So what I do when I'm dropping mules is I hit E and then click about 15 times with shift held down, and then if I have anywhere from 0 to 15, I'm fine. And if I only have 5, then I drop 5, because it's better than hitting it 3 times and hoping that you had 3 Dudes, and the same thing is true of these racks. If you have enough racks to produce 14 Marines at a time, and you find yourself constantly queuing up 4 Marines, and then queuing up 4 more Marines, and then queuing up 4 more Marines, if you look at this, queuing up 10 Marines, you have the production capacity to make more than 10, right? So all 3 of these buildings are empty. So what you want to do, if you have tons of money that you're finding that you can't spend, overproduce things rather than under. It's always better to over than to under. So what you do is you grab your racks and then you hold down A until you completely run out of money all the way, like no money left in the bank. And then you just glance at these pips. You can even just glance at the first one and say, okay, I see 6 pips. I only really need 4, so I'll just hit escape until there's only 4 on the first racks. And that's how you queue up Marines. Again, always better to have too many than too few so that you actually spend your money. Same thing with starports and stuff. Again, not noticing that you need to transfer this stuff down. Greatest Spire. One indicator you can use to remind yourself when to unsaturate your main. If you turn your volume way up, there's actually this. This makes a sound. When she says minerals have been exhausted, this thing that popped up, it says, like, you know, I don't know what it says, but it says something. And if you turn your volume up loud enough and you figure out what it says and then listen for that, you can hear it. And it'll say, here, something has been exhausted. And then you go like, oh, okay, I gotta move guys. Obviously, not dropping mules again. Bad upgrades. So, again, how you move your army across the field is very important. In this case, you took them from very far away and you A-moved them, so they stay in giant packs. And then you try to split them. So what you end up with, this is like 80 Marines, and then you split it in half. So now you have 2 groups of 40 Marines. A group of 40 Marines is a very bad group against infestors and banelings. So now you're trying to split again. So you take this giant group and you move it away. But every time you move a group, it clumps up. So this is just not at all how you split Marines. At this point, you've spent a lot of money on army. You've won a lot of fights. It looks like you're probably going to win this game. But again, constantly very clumped up Marines. So anytime a baneling explodes, it does great things for him. Very bad for you. You do finally notice that all of your dudes in your main are out, but you're still not dropping mules, and you made some more command centers. Not getting any additional gas, which is okay with me. I don't mind that you're not getting more gas. You made some Vikings. You just A-moved some Marines across the field. They run into Ultras and get cremated. Once he has Ultras out, if his income is close to yours, he should crush you. But I think you're way ahead on income at this point, so it's hard for him to win no matter what he does. He has a much bigger army than you, but he's not mining at all. So I don't know. You're definitely going to lose this fight. By a lot, just like massively lose this fight. You're not even going to kill an Ultra. No, you killed one Ultra. That was really bad. So, first of all, Ultras just counter Marines completely because they have so much armor and Marines' damage is so low per shot that this is 6 armor against a 9 damage Marine, so you're doing 1/3 damage. Very big deal. Second, your army size, even in that battle where you had a relatively large supply, very lopsided. Your army size, when you make Marines, they cost 70 bucks per supply. So if you max out with, what is this, 55 workers, and then you have 145 Marines, that's going to be 145 divided by 2 is 72. 7,200 bucks, right? And you can see he's only at 190 supply. He has 74 workers. He's got 20 more workers than you, and yet he's already got an $8,400 army. So theoretically, a maxed out army would be even bigger. You see what I'm saying? Basically, a tier 3 army is always going to be more value, more money, and therefore more damage and more awesomeness than a tier 1 army. So that's the risk. There's a reason everybody masses Marines. It's because they're very best of tier 1 things. So they're very effective even in the mid game, which is really cool. That's a really big advantage that Terran has, and it's really fun to play this way. But they are still tier 1 units, and no matter how much you upgrade them, they will never cost more than $50 per unit space. So they will never work in the super late game when everybody else has very expensive units and more money than you. Hey guys, how's it going? So now that he's basically on pure Ultra Infestor, I suspect you're just going to continue to throw Marines over here and die and never going to be able to kill these Ultras. A lot of people will tell you that once Ultras get out, you're going to need more Marauders, and that is absolutely true, but it's misleading, right? Because theoretically, if you're forced to make only Marines or Marauders, then Marauders are a much better choice against Ultras. But in practice, if you're only making Marines and Marauders against Ultras and Infestors, you're gonna lose, because Marines and Marauders can't beat Ultra Infestor. So yes, Marauders are way better than Marines, but they're also not good at all. But yeah, I agree with that statement. You definitely messed it up. You had a pretty big lead, and you were about to kill him. One of the biggest reasons that you didn't kill him is that you weren't rallying straight to his base. I'm being very distracted by my kids. Another reason is that you got caught a couple times by really bad splash. And obviously the final reason is you just didn't spend all your money. You had a lot of money, didn't spend all of it. But this was very good. I mean, you got that 4th base up really quickly, and you secured a very large income. You kept that income for a long time. You spent a lot of that money. So it was pretty impressive relative to prior play. But remember, the goal in TVT and TVZ, both of those matchup, TVT and TVZ, is 72 workers at 12 minutes with a $3,000 income. So if you just compare yourself to that goal and you say, all right, let's go to every game I ever play and go to 12 minutes and say, how many workers do I have and how much money am I getting? You don't have 72 workers, and you clearly don't have 3K income. You have half. You have half of that. You only have 1,500 income. So if we just watch nothing but this little income thing, and we go through the whole game just staring at these two numbers and adding them up in our heads and saying this is about 15, this is about 15, this is about 15, this is about 15, this is about 12, this is about 12, this is about 15, this is about 17, this is about 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21, 20, 32. It's getting better. This is still about 26, 27. Back down to 16, 15, 14, 19, 17. So this number should always be above 30 all game long from 12 minutes on. And it was only above 30 for a very short time when you accidentally saved up a ton of mule energy and then dropped all your mules at once. In general, on average, it's been about 13 all game. And that's just way too low, man. Way too low. 13, 13, 13, 13. Man, I wish there was a 16x that you could push to go through games even faster. 20. Hey, not bad. 20 is good. 23 is even better. Gwenny, if a baby hurts you, it's your own fault. Don't put yourself in a position where a baby can hurt you. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to tell you that. Now you got a 11K income, 9K income. Anyway, you get the idea, right? You're doing a good job of taking bases within a reasonable amount of time, but you're not dropping mules often enough, and mules are a huge part of Terran's income. You're not getting gas anywhere, and it's kind of good because you don't want to be spending gas, so mining gas that you're not going to spend is silly. But that also means that you need even more bases than you think you need. So in order to get 72 workers to mine only minerals at only soft cap efficiency, you have to open your calculator and say 72 divided by 16. You need 4.5 active bases. 4.5 active bases. That means 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That's crazy. So once your main and natural mine out, you can no longer reach that goal. It's completely impossible. So this is why people get gas, and this is why people use builds that involve spending gas, is just because otherwise it'd be impossible to get a reasonable income. You just can't get enough minerals to compete with somebody who's spending their gas. Anyway, once the Ultras came out, you were completely dead. There was no chance. But before the Ultras came out, you were doing pretty well. You just needed to actually Killing Blow him before the Ultras came out. Lots of problems here, man. But the biggest... Like, StarCraft, again, there's this hierarchy of things. And if you don't have the very, very base of the pyramid, the very, very crucial, foundational, fundamental thing of getting money, then none of the other things on top of the hierarchy really matter. So throughout the entire game, you had less money coming in than him, so it's not surprising that eventually he killed you. Get more money, man. Get more money. That's all I can say. Get more money.